When will Americans return to the moon? After decades of anticipation, NASA has finally released the flight schedule for the Artemis II mission. NASA has announced new timeline details for the Artemis II mission, the program that will send American astronauts around the moon for the first time since the Apollo era. The updated schedule provides the clearest indication yet of when the United States intends to resume crewed lunar flights, marking a major milestone in the next phase of space exploration. Artemis II is designed as a critical test mission. It will not land on the lunar surface, but instead carry a four-person crew on a trajectory that loops around the moon and returns to Earth. The primary objectives are to validate life support systems, navigation procedures, re-entry profiles, and orbital communications for crewed operations beyond low Earth orbit. These systems must perform reliably before future missions attempt lunar landings. According to NASA, the mission is now targeted for late 2025 to early 2026, pending final hardware testing and safety reviews. Officials noted that the timeline reflects both technical progress and the complexities of preparing a deep space vehicle capable of sustaining human life far from Earth. The spacecraft for the mission consists of the Orion crew capsule and the Space Launch System, or SLS, a heavy-lift rocket developed to carry passengers and cargo into deep space. NASA also confirmed the composition of the Artemis II crew. The mission will include 3 American astronauts and 1 Canadian astronaut as part of a broader cooperation framework with international partners. The inclusion of a Canadian crew member reflects a strategic decision by NASA to expand international participation in human spaceflight beyond the International Space Station era. Analysts say that Artemis II represents a symbolic turning point. The last time humans traveled near the moon was in 1972 during Apollo 17. After more than 50 years, the United States is positioning itself to re-enter the lunar environment, but this time with longer-term ambitions. NASA officials emphasized that Artemis II is not the destination, but rather a gateway to Artemis III and subsequent missions intended to build a sustainable lunar presence. The Artemis program is not purely scientific. It also carries geopolitical and industrial dimensions. Several spacefaring nations, including China, Russia, and members of the European Union, are planning or evaluating their own lunar initiatives. Lunar surface access and cislunar infrastructure, such as communications relays and cargo depots, could eventually support new commercial and research activities. The United States sees the Artemis program as a way to shape rules, standards, and partnerships for future space operations. Industry analysts highlight that the Artemis supply chain now involves hundreds of companies across the United States and abroad, supporting aerospace manufacturing, avionics, propulsion systems, guidance technologies, and materials research. The program therefore functions not only as a scientific mission, but also as an industrial policy tool that strengthens the domestic space sector. NASA officials state that the Artemis II timeline will remain dependent on ground tests and internal reviews. Engineers are completing evaluations of thermal protection systems, electrical components, and oxygen circulation hardware, while the SLS rocket undergoes structural assessments related to launch loads. Flight readiness reviews and integrated simulations will follow before NASA commits to a final launch date. While exact dates may shift, experts agree that Artemis II will be the decisive step toward human return to the lunar surface. Once the mission proves that crewed lunar loops can be performed safely, Artemis III will attempt the first moon landing of the program. NASA hopes that the landing phase can occur before the end of the decade, though timelines remain sensitive to funding, testing, and hardware maturity. More updates may follow.